Coffee houses in the 18th century attracted a variety of people. These included the elite and intellectuals. Coffee houses became quiet clubs where one would have to pay to enter. In turn, coffee houses also repelled certain customers. Women were expected to stay in the house for coffee and were not allowed into coffee houses, which in turn caused women to petition for the ban of coffee. Until this time, the meeting place for social activities had been taverns and pubs, so when the coffee house was founded, most thought of the drink to be as addicting and harmful as alcohol. Once the women's petition against coffee came out, the differences between coffee and alcohol became apparent. Rumors about health benefits emerged, and the coffee houses started encouraging sobriety, rational thought, and political discussion, whereas taverns were more a place for intoxication. Coffee houses became places to debate current events and create new ideas for how life should be.
The thought of political ideas and debate being discussed scared King Charles II, and he became paranoid he was going to lose the crown. He was afraid of ideas such as dissent and decapitation. King Charles II did not want the public to know that he was afraid of a revolution, so he claimed coffee houses disturbed peace, quiet, produced evil, and dangerous effects. He also wanted to end the sale of coffee, tea, and chocolate. There was too much cry from the public, so King Charles II had to back off from banning coffee houses. Coffee houses had many negative aspects in itself. Doctors cited languor, paralysis, heart attacks, and trembling as risks of consuming large amounts of coffee. Coffee houses were sometimes places of illicit behavior, such as private rooms where activities such as prostitution occurred, probably to the knowledge and perhaps benefit of the owners. Many dates occur at coffee houses, and at the end of the date, erotic encounters may happen.
Towards the end of the 18th century, coffee houses had almost completely disappeared from the popular social scene in England. Historians offer a wide range of reasons for the decline of English coffee houses. Some argue that the coffee house failed through their business endeavors, the evolution of the club, and the government acted as the main contributors to the decline of the English coffee house. Coffeehouse proprietors worked to gain monopoly over news culture and to establish a coffeehouse newspaper as the only form of print news available. Met with constant criticism, the proposal discredited coffee men's social standing. By this time, the power of the coffeehouses had already been declining, and such a suggestion was met with ridicule and the idea that coffee men were holding on to a hopeless endeavor. The rise of the exclusive club also contributed to the decline in popularity of coffeehouses. The rules that had once made coffeehouses accessible meeting places for all levels of society fell into disuse. High society and exclusiveness became the new desirable meeting places to discuss ideas that were considered not for the everyday man. Some coffeehouses began charging clientele as a way to ensure that only the rich could frequent the coffeehouses often. Literary and political clubs rose in popularity as many people saw the coffee as a frivolous aspect to serious discussion. With a new increased demand for tea, the government also had a hand in the decline of the English coffee house in the 18th century. The British East India Company had formed a greater interest in the tea trade than the coffee trade, as competition for coffee had become incredible with the heightened international expansion of coffee houses throughout the rest of Europe. Government policy fostered trade with India and China, and the government offered encouragements to anything that would stimulate the demand for tea. Tea had become fashionable at the high court and tea houses, which drew their clientele from both men and women, and began to grow in popularity and doubled the clientele of the coffee houses. The growing popularity of tea is explained by the ease by which it is prepared. They said, To brew coffee, all that is needed is to add boiling water. Coffee, in contrast, required roasting, grinding, and brewing. In regards to the decline in coffee cultures, historians note that they had already served their purpose and were no longer needed as meeting places for political or literary criticism and debate. Coffee took the people of London and made them into more clear-headed and enlightened thinkers. The first thing that this coffee culture changed was much of the alcoholism that was rampant in London. Historically, people in the past had used alcohol as a clean source of something to drink. But the problem with that is that obviously alcohol impairs judgment, and not a lot of people are productive when intoxicated. With the spread of the coffee culture, people began to drink much less alcohol during their day. The second thing that the coffee house changed historically is it acted as a medium for people to express intellectual thoughts with like-minded people. Before the coffee house came around, people usually only had pubs and churches as the main public places to congregate. But with a pub, you have people who are either too intoxicated to engage in intelligent thought or were disinterested in current events. The church helped give rise to the coffee house because people of the day were too afraid of saying anything around the church for fear of being called a blasphemer.